My name is Akash. Uh, Akash Mavle. I'm CTO of ProductDossier. You must have heard what ProductDossier does. ProductDossier works in the area of professional services automation. We are one of the leading companies in that area. So what I'm going to go through today in next 1 hour or so is take you through the process of how predictive analysis and prescriptive analysis can be leveraged using AI/ML techniques for a PSA. When I say PSA, we are talking about services organization like IT service companies, management consulting companies, engineering services companies, and every variety of professional services company. So let me take you through some of the agenda for today. I'll quickly introduce ProductDossier as a company, what we have been doing. I'll do PSA introduction, then move on to what is data science, AI, and ML. And I always say this as a trio, so data science, AI, ML is almost like a continuum. We'll also get into what each of these areas, covers. And also data to wisdom, this is the new paradigm we are trying to really communicate to most of our customers. We'll cover a sample AI/ML implementation methodology. We'll go across, relevance of AI/ML for PSA, some of PSA analyst insight. So one of my good friend, David, he has been researching PSA or services organization pretty much for last 26 years. Some of his research, publicly available research paper, I'll bring out some insights. Then we'll focus on what kind of KPIs are tracked by C-suite people in all the services organization, be it CEO, be it CFO, COO, CHRO, or RMG heads. Then we'll go through how predictive analytics can help professional services, how prescriptive analytics can help professional services companies, and what we call as our own AI/ML use case catalog. So we'll cover some of those use cases at a high level. This is only to give you idea in terms of which facets of your services organization where you can start looking at, deploying AI/ML. These are quick facts. Some of them are covered. We are formed in 2006. We are serving global customers. When we did a recent study, we deliver almost $10 billion worth of revenue across our customer, 70 odd customers. Some of them are fairly large, 20,000 plus, 16,000 plus organizations. ProductDossier is founded by ISC and IIT alumnus. We have been we are compliant on SOC 1, SOC 2, ISO 27001. These are some of our customers at glance. I will not read all of them, but you can quickly have a view of our customers. This is my background. I spent close to 26 years in industry, started working with complex ERP implementations to e-commerce, to analytics, to AI/ML, with formal courses from IIT Bombay in terms of AI, ML, statistics. And that's a knowledge I'm trying to bring on the table today. So today's theme is PSA plus AI/ML. So we will also throw some light on PSA issues, and we'll then also fuse some ideas in terms of how AI/ML can help PSA in terms of predictive and prescriptive analytics. So typically when we say PSA, I have just given a very simplistic flow here. What we say is PSA starts with opportunity management. So you could have opportunities coming in from your Salesforce or Zoho or any of your CRM you are using. Then you get into the estimation and proposal phase. Then you create estimate, you create proposal, then project is set up if you win the project, then starts the project execution cycle. And eventually you close the project and go to the billing side. Now this simplistic flow is the most complex flow right now turning out to be with most of the IT services companies, IT software companies, and companies all around working in even in engineering services. And some of the GCCs, Global Capability Center of large manufacturing companies we work with, they also follow mostly the same flow. And this flow, again, integrating this whole flow is what our mission has been at ProductDossier. So what are the drivers for PSA? Why should somebody go for PSA? So if you start from the top, the margins are always under pressure right now, and they are more under pressure for any projects. You constantly, CFOs, RMGs are managing their bench. The bench has to be reduced. How do you reduce the bench? How do you track the bench effectively? There's a new challenge post-COVID, which is coming up, is gig economy, where you will have some workforce working inside your organization and another set of workforce working outside your organization. You still have to deliver projects. You still have to do resource management effectively. You still have to really manage your bottom line and top line. So that's another challenge. Second is teams are spread geographically. And I'm not talking about big teams. I'm talking about 10 people team. I used to have, a team spread across 3 time zones, and there was only 10 people team. Okay, so this is a big challenge. There is now bigger focus on CSAT scores or net promoter score for customer, net promoter score for employee. All this tracking puts a lot of pressure on, digitalization and automating the basic PSA processes. Then getting your, the project schedules are getting crashed because most of the industries or most of the technologies, there are proven times, how to really arrive at a particular type of project. So that crashing schedule is another challenge. And obviously the last is Gen Z. The millennials and Gen Z are coming into workforce. They have their own way of looking at world. They're generally socially connected. And this is where we have to leverage PSA in a manner where they can consume it faster. This is quick positioning slide. So what we really say is any PSA is in between. It is really making your CRM, your office application, your HRMS, your financial accounting system, your ERPs work together. And it really automates the middle piece. And this is the most important piece, which we covered in the simplistic flow just a few minutes ago. This is another perspective. This is slightly more granular. I will not go into it. But what is happening is, if you really try and combine your processes from opportunity management to resource management to financials to project management, you are actually faced with a lot of challenges. And how are those challenges solved by most of the companies? They're either using a lot of Excels. So there are hundreds of Excel sheets which are managing your WBS, the resource, your billing rates, your CTC of the people. A lot of that is happening in either in Excel or it is happening in a unwieldy ERP as an extension or a customization to ERP. What we are saying is when you sign up for any PSA, you are signing up for a change in culture. You are bringing a totally new digitalized culture into your organization where you're trying to really automate your opportunity to catch cycle. And this is what is happening in most of the IT services company, engineering services companies, and software companies, and also the larger umbrella of professional services companies like management consulting companies, architectural services, engineering services companies. All of them are trying to really solve this middle piece. This is another perspective where we say AI/ML turbocharged PSA. So where all really AI/ML can help. So let's look at these 3 main blocks. So don't look at things around, but just look at 3 blocks of project delivery, project finance, and resource management. When you look at project delivery, you could have resource planning and resource forecasting, which is AI-driven. And what do I mean by AI-driven? You could have a lot of ways of defining which resources I'm losing, what could be my churn, how can I get new resources from the market. Remember, the big companies, big tech companies are reducing the headcount, but services companies are increasing the headcount. I mean, look at Accenture, look at TCS, look at every large and mid-sized services company, they are increasing headcount. So really doing resource planning, which is AI driven, which can look at historical trend, which can bring in predictive resource planning, all of that has a lot of value. Same is true with basic execution, quality management, and so on. So if you look at three of these blocks, project delivery, project finance, resource management, I have also listed down in each area where all, for example, in project finance, I could look at NLP driven forecasting. Now, most of the structured data gives you a lot of information, and then you can do easy time series analysis. But when I say NLP driven, there is a lot of textual data. So there is some new law passed. A lot of that data is in text format. So NLP driven forecasting means extracting meaning and insightful or actionable intelligence from lot of documents, which could be legal document, which could be news, and using that for forecasting. So I can go on, but let me go to the next slide. So these are the three broad themes in every company, not just PSA or services companies, which I normally call as 3A, so automation, AI, and analytics. And automation has been around. There has been robotic process automation. There has been task automation. What I'm really highlighting now to you is a lot of task automation will happen by really leveraging AI. So what do I mean by that? So let's say if I have a requirement where I'm starting a project and I want to know which of my resources generally fill my timesheet late. So we have created a model which allows me to really build a behavior of every resource, that is he or she going to fill timesheet in 5 days, 3 days, or how are they going to behave. Same way, I could have my behavior and modeling applied to some of my managers. Who are the people who submit timesheet on time to customer, and that's where they are helping me having better invoice realization and better DSOs. So all of that. So when I say automation, analytics, and AI is the driver for most of the analytics and automation activities. Now, this is the most meaty slide, actually. I will take more time on this slide, and then we could have a lot of visual slides as we follow. So what are we saying? Every PSA leverages power of integration in terms of integrating functions like CRM, HR, financials, and everything. AI/ML can really bring out power of prediction in every aspect. And we looked at few of the cases. We'll look at more use cases as we move on. AI/ML can also predict employee behavior and customer behavior. So what do I mean by customer behavior and employee behavior? So maybe some employees, they are finishing project early. Some have capability to really code faster. There could be so many dimensions of behavior in terms of employee. Same way customer. Let's say if I know a customer who will pay my invoices in time, if I provide timesheet and invoices in time, this is one aspect of behavior. A lot of this data is already available with most of the companies we work with, and that data is not utilized for doing prediction or prescriptive algorithms. And this is where we are coming in. We are reaching out to most of our customers. We have started building some of these AI/ML use cases using predictive analytics into our platform, and this is what we want to really reach out to when we talk to every customer. AI/ML also can help you find relationship between events, data points, and create business impact. AI/ML can help in reducing your bench in services companies. This is one of the biggest value proposition I am going to really go aggressive with a lot of my customers. AI/ML can create financial impact through higher margins and reduction in day sales outstanding. A lot of NLP techniques, which is again subset of AI, natural language processing techniques, can unearth wealth of information available in text documents, which could be resume, SOW, contracts, invoices, and so on. AI will really help me in every way to find anomalies and how to deal with them. Another big area is really risk management. So most of the other industries beyond service industries like banks and insurance and government, they have been practicing risk management and risk quantification for ages, along with even risk mitigation. But what is happening is services companies are only really capturing risk types and some of the risk reasons. They are not really building risk model by using AI. And this is what we are doing right now in our platform. So we not only identify risk, we help you mitigate risk using AI ML. Another big thing which people don't realize is AI will not only bring impact in the analytics side, it will also bring impact in the transaction flow. So every time I'm doing some transaction, which is normal transaction, I could have a background AI, a use case running, which will go back to historical data, compare that with real-time data, and give me some actionable intelligence. Even in my normal transaction, something as rudimentary as project estimate or creating project plan, I could pull out a previous project done with the same customer. I could bring out a lot of nuances about that customer in terms of how they plan, how they get the training. All those niceties and nuances can be planned, which were nice to have some years ago when there was no AI or ML. And lastly, AI helps in unlocking value of your data assets for decision making. Now, this is something which is said for several years, where people are saying that everybody is sitting on a huge gold mine of data. How do you convert data into some kind of uh, asset so that it helps me in decision making? It either helps me in building better bottom line, or it helps me in doing efficient business. So this is where AI brings in. So this was the overall theme about what I'm going to talk. In next slides, we'll go more granular. So this is another perspective. This is not old. This was put by Thomas Davenport, the famous Harvard professor, where we look at descriptive analytics. So what we are really saying here is predictive and prescriptive analytics has generally highest business impact, because it takes it into account not only the real time and what is happening now, it takes into account things like what will happen and what should ideally happen. This is where prescriptive analytics comes into play. This is another just a high level thought. So every company today has a lot of data, but unless you start finding some more information out of that data, that's where it becomes information. You start connecting those dots, that's where it becomes knowledge. And then from knowledge, it becomes insight, and eventually the wisdom. Now, wisdom is what is really the goal of all the systems all these years. And some of them were giving in some varying degree, but now they are giving more impact. And what I'm now going to do is, let's have a quick poll if that is possible. We'll just go over one poll. Yeah. So I just take a break and then you guys can just answer some of the poll questions. Yeah, I think everybody got it right. I think 100% got it right, where there is a top line and bottom line impact of AI ML in PSA. So that was the result of poll. Let me move on to the next slide. So what is happening is, if you look at right from retail to healthcare to financial services, every industry is using AI ML today. So this is where most of the services companies we work with, they are implementing this cutting edge solution for their customer, but they themselves are not adopting AI. And this is what we observed, where we said we want to bring the culture of PSA as well as AI ML enabled PSA with most of our customers. And that this is where we took this initiative of embedding AI ML use cases into our platform. These are some preliminaries, some of you might be aware. So there is, if you look at machine learning as a broad area, it has supervised learning, unsupervised learning. There are various techniques and algorithms. A lot of these ML has come from statistics. We'll cover in one of the slide. This is another ML deployment flow, generic flow. I'm just, displaying it here. A lot of ML now is getting converted into auto ML. So the sophistication on ML algorithms and AI algorithm is much higher. The data availability is higher. So if you look at a typical services company, they have data about projects, they have data about resources, they have timesheet data. A humongous amount of data is available where you could learn a lot of machine learning algorithms. This is just one high level view. I call it method in madness slide. where there are tons of algorithms. A lot of these algorithms are proven elsewhere, and now we are bringing them into PSA world. So you could look at supervisory model, unsupervised, learning algorithm, pure stats algorithm, and so on. So what we are saying is, um, this is one big impact, impact thought we leave with every customer. Every customer has huge amount of data about customers, projects, timesheet, resources, the way people work, there could be on-time projects, off-time project. So this whole data asset is there in relational data, text data, document data, and there could be outside world data. What you really want is, you want business outcomes. Every C-suite or senior management people, CXO, CEO, resource management head, CHRO wants business outcomes. So they want better margins, less DSO, better financial resource and profitability forecasting, better higher revenue, and reduce costs. How is it possible doing that? So this is where AI ML algorithms comes into play. So they are broadly into machine learning. You can do predictive analytics, prescriptive analytics, NLP, and now Gen AI, which is what ChatGPT does. This is another perspective, that the data assets are of various varieties. So you would, a few years ago, you would just have relational database. Now you have key value pairs, you have streaming data, you have wide column data, you have document data, you have graph data. These are only structured data formats, and then there are a host of unstructured data formats like PDF, email, news items, everything. Getting it integrated is another challenge, and this is where most of the AI ML algorithms are helping us. Okay. Another perspective is, let's go a little bit into larger umbrella of what is AI, what is machine learning, what is data science. Okay. So this is, in a way, I always say that AI is a synthesis of philosophy, psychology, cognitive science, economics, control theory, statistics, probability, and mathematics. Okay. And that is where it is the larger umbrella. Machine learning is only part of the AI, where we are only looking at ML algorithms. ML itself overlaps a lot with data science, and data science itself overlaps or draws heavily from statistics. And in between, you just have big data, but that is not in terms of technique. You just have big data. So in terms of AI, ML, and deep learning. And deep learning are the CNNs and RNNs, are the new algorithm in terms of computer vision, in terms of language detection, and so on. Now, this slide is slightly older slide. This again now needs to be modified with Gen AI and large language model. And that is what is happening right now everywhere in the industry. And what ChatGPT has really done is, it has really democratized the whole AI debate, because AI was only understood by people maybe like me, who have done some formal education, or who have published in AI, or who have went through the rigors of PhD program. But otherwise, AI was not understood. AI was always either considered hype or marketing. Okay. What I'm really bringing to the perspective is, a lot of AI is hardcore science. And that science means there are mathematical algorithms, there are statistical algorithms, there are algorithms which are biologically inspired algorithms. A lot of those algorithms are really brought on table to solve business problems. This is another view of what is data science, what is machine learning, and what is AI. So really, data science is based on statistics, generally well defined, but it requires a lot of evolved person doing which techniques of statistics to use. Machine learning is little bit brute force, where you just use the technique, find out the meaning, and then you leave for the interpretation. AI really combines a lot of ML, NLP, computer vision, robotics, and nowadays Gen AI. This is another slide. Okay, another perspective is, when we say we have to implement AI ML in any organization, what are we doing? What is the basic flow we follow? And when I say we follow, which means when we are discovering AI ML use cases, when we are building a product, or even implementing product. So when we go for PSA AI ML implementation, this is what we will follow. So we look at a high business impact business area. We show our product dossiers use case catalog for AI ML. Then we define precise SOW, what are we going to do? So for example, let's say I want to solve a problem of resource forecasting or revenue forecasting using AI ML techniques. So this is where I will create that as a business impact area, define the precise SOW, what are the variables I am taking into model, what should be their accuracy, what are their sources, what is their availability. Then we work with customer, create an ROI around ROI for that case, which is a detailed calculation in terms of what kind of savings they will draw. Then we create a detailed implementation plan and jump into the software implementation. Most of these algorithms I'm talking, they're either implemented or being implemented into our products. So we are eager to bring these to some of our customers. This is another perspective. One of my friend, Dave, he researches professional services automation market pretty much for last 26 years. What he has done is he has looked at several companies for several years and what kind of PS key matrices, professional services key matrices they have. And what we are saying is performance matrices. So in terms of revenue growth, headcount growth, billable person, attrition, revenue per employee, revenue per consultant, what is their profitability, and how these companies really achieve this. So they move through certain cycle of maturity between level 1 to level 5. Level 5, generally companies draw exceptional results. So when you look at the last column here, level 4 and 5, if you look at numbers, their annual revenue per billable customer could be as high as almost $300,000. Their project deliver on-time performance could be high as 91.8%. Now remember, this is a survey carried out by Dave at SPI Research with several services organization, and he is doing it pretty much for last 26 years. And under SPI Research, he's doing it for 16 years. So what we are saying is, if you really move from maturity level 1 to 5, and when I say maturity level 5 or even 4, this is where you are actually implementing AI ML use cases. You are embedding AI ML into your operations by way of predictive or prescriptive analytics use cases. So if you are in this level 4 or level 5, this is where you will draw very good business benefits in terms of higher billable utilization, higher per person, per employee profit and revenue, better accurate forecast, and much higher control over margin. So I'm only talking about business benefits here, and this is proven by a third-party research company like SPI Research. Now let's go to some of the quickly review. So there is one presentation I have which details each of these KPIs for a services organization. But let me quickly go through them. So if you look at CEO, and CEO's KPI are in a way superset of most of other KPI. So CEOs of a services company are really looking at revenue growth, customer satisfaction, employee productivity, customer retention rate, company sales pipeline, and so on. Now, these KPIs are not new. We are not saying these are new KPI. We are only documenting it for a matter of saying that most of these KPIs were only measured. How do you get them under control? And that is where that is where predictive analytics and prescriptive analytics comes into play. And I'm not talking about good old predictive analytics. I'm talking about predictive analytics and prescriptive analytics, which is using AI and ML. So that is where you will start seeing these KPIs. So when we go to any organization for PSA implementation or PSA with AI implementation, we try to baseline where the organization is, and then we try to eventually deliver these numbers. Now, these numbers are anyway tracked by some of our customers, but we also track them in our platform. So this is another, perspective in terms of what we do at ProductDossier. So when I say PSA or services organization, which is turbocharged by AI ML, so what all is happening at a slightly one step below or less granularity is, let's say you have higher use case areas like project management, resource management, time and expense tracking, billing and invoicing, customer support, sales, and knowledge management. all these processes or use cases could have AI impacting them. So in project management, you could do automated project planning, scheduling, resource handling, project risks, and project progress. In resource management, you could identify what could be resources which could be constrained. You could plan resources well. And this is where you will pick up historical data, create a learned model, and use that model to answer some of the questions. And this is what was happening. Earlier, somebody with lot of experience was almost as good as somebody who has learned 20 machine learning models, because he would have insight, he or she would have insight in terms of employee churn, who is performing well, who will do project faster, and so on. Same is true with time and expense tracking. AI can assist you really, reminders, suggestions, and automating process. When it comes to billing and invoicing, we already have automatic margin and revenue recognition calculation in PSA. We enhanced it by AI ML algorithm. Then customer support, sales, and knowledge management. Every area could have impact through AI ML. We'll go deeper into these areas. Now I'll go one by one. Now these are the areas, like these are the 7 areas: project management, resource management, time and expense tracking, billing, invoicing, customer support, sales, and knowledge management. Each of these 7 areas, now we'll go deeper by looking at what could be predictive and prescriptive use cases leveraging AI. So when I say predictive analytics for project management, what am I saying? I'm going deeper now. Now I'm going one level below, from project management to resource planning. In resource planning, I can look at staff patterns. I can study staff behavior. I could come up with schedule which has a lot of a lot of intelligence in terms of past behavior of people, past behavior of customer. I could build risk management model. So some of the models are pre-built right now in our, what we call it as ProductDossier AI ML use case catalog. I can automate my budgeting process. I can have better quality control because I can look at numbers of defects, and those are captured at a system level. I can do better performance management under project management. I can ensure that I can look at previous patterns of customer satisfaction and try and apply new, methods so that customer satisfaction, CSAT scores or NPS score for customer are improved. I can do better change management. Then let's say now I'm going, so I started with, so this is the overall, slide I'm starting with. So I started with project management. Now I'm going into resource management. So resource management, in a way, although it's a strictly RMG function, it overlaps a lot with HR function also. That's where you will see some of these tabs like talent acquisition, skill development, workforce planning, resource allocation. And if you look at every area, I have listed down how really AI ML can help. Now, this is what is getting translated into our use cases, and they get embedded into our platform. And that's the journey we are going through right now. Some of the use cases are already there in our platform, and we'll be happy to reach out to some of our customers, new customers, existing customers, to show them what we are doing. So right from talent acquisition all the way up to performance management, succession planning, everywhere you could, or even compensation planning, you could have huge impact by using AI ML. So now go to the next stage, which is like project execution. So you looked at resource management and project management, the execution part. Now execution is larger umbrella than pure project management, because project management is in a way a codified body of language or body of knowledge, where you could look at WBS, project task, Gantt chart, PERT chart, and so on. But execution is much larger umbrella, where you will have people living in between. A lot of those disruptions, how do you handle them? Today you are doing firefighting. Tomorrow you could do a lot of using AI ML. So we have something called a scenario builder. Scenario builder feeds back to what if analysis. So everybody talks about what if analysis, but how do I do it? That is a question which is not answered with most of the platform I have seen. So what we do is we have our own scenario builder. So every area of operation in terms of project execution, right from performance monitoring to all the way up to process optimization, could be leveraged well by this scenario builder. Now, scenario builder is really a what if analysis. It has macroeconomic or company specific simulator. It looks at few data points and generates simulation by taking into external data. You remember I mentioned earlier, a lot of intelligence can be brought on the table by leveraging external data and internal data. Again, look at, let's say, billing as an area. So there are several sub areas under billing, like, invoice accuracy is one area where we are having, AI ML use case, then billing forecasting, time tracking, expense management. How do you extract meaning out of contracts? Before, just few years ago, I was involved in a contract lifecycle management company where we used to extract a lot of meaning out of contract, and then that was fed back into your various processes. The whole process of revenue recognition, cash flow management, all of these could be leveraged. And each one of them, I have just marked some details here, but each one of them can leverage various machine learning and AI algorithms. Now, you look at typical CFO, what all are his issues? What all can be automated for CFO? So right from forecasting the revenue, identifying payment trends, who pays late, who pays on time, who pays after a lot of changes in invoices, who pays after a lot of requirement in terms of timesheet, invoice, and a lot of other data. A lot of that can be automated using AI ML. Then predicting invoice disputes, optimize pricing. So when you really map the customer behavior in terms of how he clears, let's say, your T&M invoices or fixed price invoices or outcome-based invoices, you could feed that whole payment trend or payment related customer behavior into disputes and fraud. And then eventually you could also optimize your pricing actually for each customer. So now we covered in last few slides, we just covered the predictive analytics slides. Let me just take a quick break and we can have another poll actually. So I just instruct my team to have, thank you. All right. So now we have answer to the poll. The question in the poll was, what kind of use case use cases AI ML has high impact? So simple analytics and predictive and prescriptive analytics. So I think, we got almost 96% people getting it right. So I'm glad that people are listening to what I'm saying. Thank you. So in the last 4 slides, I covered what could be predictive analytics use cases. Let me now cover prescriptive analytics use cases. Okay. So same way we did for predictive, where we started with project management first. So now what we are saying is most of prescriptive analytics use cases are going to tell you what should happen rather than what will happen. So my predictive algorithm will tell me what will happen by looking at past behavior and present real-time data. So in prescriptive, you will see really at the heart of prescriptive, it is AI plus good old operation research. So in operation research, I could have a mechanism to really allocate resources in the most efficient manner. So for example, let's say I have let's say bunch of projects, and then I have 100 to 200 resources on bench. What should be the best way to deploy resources with very high relevance of resources skills to the project? So the constraint is I should have high relevance of resources to the skill required by the project, to the skill set available on bench. And my objective function here is really maximizing the revenue or a profit or whatever goal I might have. I might have making that customer most happy actually by delivering that project. So resource allocation in a prescriptive manner could have so many dimensions. Same way, you could have risk management. So now I'm not saying pure risk analytics or risk measurement. I'm saying risk management. So what I'm trying to do is what should be there at what are the clauses they should be there in the contract, SOW, everywhere, or the way I'm staffing people. so that my risk is mitigated. So it is not just risk identification, but risk mitigation. Now, this is also one of the algorithm which is, or a model which is ready with us and will be soon, integrating with PSA. Task prioritization, agile project management, budget optimization. Now, this is one big area which is really liked by most of the CFOs and people in the finance function, where they are always after, the business guys and resource guys in terms of optimizing the budget. That can only happen unless if you build a model uh, so with constraints around, and solve the model and then feed that back data to the PSA engine. And obviously, last but not the least, performance analysis. So performance, again, most of the other tools will give you non-prescriptive tool, you give you how the performance can be, what kind of performance you will see. But here we can also have insights into what should be the ideal performance. Again, project execution, I could look at task automation, performance monitoring, process optimization, all the same areas, but I have just listed down the details of the prescriptive analytics. So everywhere, prescriptive analytics is in a way pushing my boundary from prediction. So in prediction, I only came to know that this will happen. In prescription, I'm almost controlling the situation. And that's where, if you remember, I mentioned, AI comes from control theory, and that's one of the oldest theory around, which created cybernetics and other branches. And most of those algorithms right now are available in AI. This is again applied to resource, resource management, right from workforce planning to skill assessment to talent retention. So if you look at performance optimization, this is a theme which will come everywhere. So when I say performance optimization, I'm only talking about not organization performance optimization. I'm talking about really making that one resource or set of resources, optimizing their performance using prescriptive techniques. So this is another perspective in terms of, project time tracking. This is how AI can help. Some of these are fairly detailed, and some of these slides are designed for 2-hour detailed presentation, so I might rush. Again, when it comes to time tracking, these are the prescriptive analytics use cases. So I am again focusing more on our own use case catalog. So what we have done is we have really sat down for last few months and looked at various problems faced by service organizations. And these problems, they come in the buckets of resource management, project management, time tracking, workflow, customer service. These are the functions or buckets where the problems come. We codified all those problems. There are dependent variables, there are independent variables. Sometimes pure statistical algorithm will solve, sometimes ML algorithm will solve, sometimes full AI, which is enabled by NLP, will solve the problem. And all these problems are converted into business use cases, because I'm not going to go deeper with my business users or my sponsors of the project. I can only go deeper with somebody who is trained in that area, and then I can explain which algorithm we are using. So what we have done is we have created a large catalog of business use cases with real business impact and corresponding set of algorithms and models. And a lot of these models are at various stages of building. Some of them are close to production also. So when we look at this slide, what we are saying is billing and invoicing process can also have so many of these AI/ML use cases. So this is on the side of opportunity management. This area generally kind of overlaps between your Salesforce or Zoho or any CRM you are using, along with the PSA. So right from lead scoring to pipeline management to sales forecasting. Now, one set of sales forecast can always come from your Salesforce and Zoho data. But another kind of sales forecast which has rich data in terms of your salesperson's performance, that can only come through PSA. And this is where we are excelling in terms of opportunity management, prescriptive analytics. This is again another detailed view. I will now kind of stop because we are good in terms of time. I don't mind taking questions. You can put those questions into into basic into the chat window. But before we move on to questions, let me quickly summarize. Let me go back to the moot point with which we started the whole conversation. So if you really look at this slide, this is the meat of this whole conversation. So if you have to just take out some points home, uh, really AI ML is going to bring a new culture in organization where you are not only automating analytics, but you are automating transaction flow also. So that's one big thing. AI ML can also open your possibilities with how do you do anomaly detection, how do you do risk assessment and mitigation. AI ML will also tell you a lot of data and intelligence resides in pure documents, which could be resumes, JDs, SOW, contract, invoices. I'm talking specific to services organization, but it will apply to any other organization. AI/ML also should be viewed as a tool to really achieve business objectives. Now, this is something which we are pushing because the entire burden of which algorithm to use, what architecture to use, is on people like me who have been practicing data science and AI and ML. Okay, your your workflow is very simple. You have to say that show me which business areas where we can reduce cost, improve efficiency, or increase top line. So these are the, or improve compliance. These are the only 4 areas we are going to talk to most of our customers, and everywhere we are going with our use case catalog. So this is what I will kind of summarize. This is in a way the main slide actually, and if there are any questions, I can take it right now. One question is, can it help reduce vendor costs? Absolutely yes. Now there is one company we are working with. They employ around 5,000 people. We are giving them better visibility in terms of reduce bench, and that way it is reducing their cost actually, the vendor cost or even hiring cost. Okay, so that possibly answers. Another question is, what specific AI/ML skills you would need to learn? Now, if you are consuming some of our offering by way of our software product, you don't have to learn anything in AI, but I normally suggest a book called Master Algorithm by Professor Peter Domingos. It is written in an extremely lucid manner. There is no math. There are no mathematical equations in it. So that way, you can refer to that kind of book as a starting point. Those are the only skills where you need, because that book tells you Master Algorithm. It talks about the 5 tribes of machine learning people. And the person who has written is professor. He knows what he is talking, but he has made it extremely lucid. Okay, another question is, could you share a couple of use cases of AI for CFO? Meaning, what could CFO see differently with AI in place? Yeah, this is very important thing. So what we are saying is, be it, let's say, revenue forecast or resource forecast, this is one big area. So we are showing considerable improvement in our model as compared to conventional revenue forecasting technique and conventional, resource forecasting technique. Another thing is, we have also automated AI ML by using, our existing margin calculator. So that is again direct benefit to CFO. So there is whole lot of another use cases we are delivering, where the entire financial planning, budgeting process can be fully automated using AI. So in fact, a lot of our suite of applications, eventually we will club them as CFO AI cockpit, and then it will have a lot of value for CFO. Okay, another question which is coming up here is how long it will take to implement AI ML. Now, what has happened is AI ML, most of AI ML has really now, in last, I would say, 3 years, has come out of researchers' desk to business people's desk. So the timeline to implement most of any of AI ML use case, I always say that it is now running into few weeks. Okay, here is another question. what will it take for me to learn AI ML? Okay. So I think this is related to the first question. If you want to really learn academically, you just have to pick up AI ML books. So I normally suggest Russell Norvig as the AI book, and you can learn applied multivariate analysis from Wichard and Merritt. So that is a book you can learn from the basic statistical techniques. And the other book I mentioned, I'll just repeat, that is Master Algorithm by Peter Domingos. These are the good starting points. Yeah, absolutely. One question is your product dossier PSA AI enabled? Yes, we have built a basic AI stack. As I was saying, we have a plan of implementing some 20 use cases this year. Out of that, 3 use cases are already in production, and each use cases, because we are doing a product level or OEM range, so each one will take its own time to go into production. Once it goes into production, once it is generally available, you with PSA you will have the entire AI use case delivered to you. All right, just to summarize before we end the call, what I feel is most of AI ML right now is becoming more and more mature in the AI ML area. And I'm in fact seeing less maturity in the PSA adoption in most of the customer ecosystem we work with. So PSA working with, PSA getting enabled with AI ML is going to be far more easy than, pushing PSA to customer. And that's one of the challenges we are solving. So most of our customers who are already using PSA, adopting AI ML use cases will not be a big challenge for them. And that's what we want to communicate to most of our customers. Okay, thanks a lot. It was good interacting with you, at least at a question answer level. And thanks a lot for a patient hearing. I mean, 1 hour is not a small time, especially in the afternoon. Thank you very much.